Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Bobby Miller put up another quality enough start. That's a stat we made up, but we're going to talk about it. The Dodgers offense got the job done without very much from Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. And the big news of the day, Tony Gonsolin is out for this year, which we knew. He's also out for next year because he's having Tommy John surgery. We're going to talk about all that. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. That guy next to me is Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And Vince, it was another win for the Dodgers, series opener against the DBacks, and a little bit of a back and forth. Dodgers jumped out to a quick 3-0 lead. The D-backs battled back, took a 4-3 lead, and then the Dodgers said, enough of that garbage. Zach Gallen had never allowed more than 3 home runs in a game in his career. He now has, and Dodgers tagged him for 6 runs. We're all 6 runs, either 5 or 6 runs.
He allowed 6 runs.
6 runs, yeah. So his ERA, would you say, went from 3.11 to 3.31?
Yeah, 3.32.
3.32. So put a dent in his Cy Young chances. He's still maybe the front runner. That National League pitching, that Cy Young race is almost a battle of attrition, I think is what they call it. Like, nobody seems to really want that award, which is why Clayton Kershaw is probably still likely to finish top 5, even though he's not even going to pitch enough innings to qualify for the ERA title.
Yeah, Blake's know how to get outing. His ERA is in mid-2s. So he's up there. Yeah, Gallen, he's given up 5 runs or more this season 5 times, 2 of those times against the Dodgers. This is the first time he's given up 6 runs this season. So yeah, the Dodgers got to him. It was solid performance on their end offensively. It felt like early on, it felt like a Dodger playoff game where they get to the guy early in the game in first or second inning, and then the guy just cruises through. Like, he retired the next 8 batters after he gave up the 3 runs, and it looked like, oh man, they're going to let him go 6 and just the 3 runs allowed. But they ended up tacking on more, which was good to see. And on the other side, the Dodgers they had kind of a reverse sandwich of that, where Bobby Miller was good, and then he gave up some runs, and then he was really good at the end.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot. I finally decided we finally need to name this thing. I decided we're calling it a quality enough start. A quality start is 6 innings and 3 or fewer runs. And we've said the Dodgers don't need that necessarily especially from these rookies. They need 5 or 6 innings and 4 or 5 runs allowed. Even 5 innings and 5 runs allowed, most of the time, the Dodgers are going to win that game. 6 innings and 4 runs is like the best. And we decided we're calling that a quality enough start, because with this Dodgers offense, that's quality enough. And it's the same exact line that Gavin Stone gave them Sunday: 6 innings, 4 runs allowed. Same thing here. Bobby Miller, 6 innings, 4 runs allowed. And it was like exactly what the Dodgers needed, because the offense did come through. They scored 7 runs. Even if the bullpen hadn't thrown 3 scoreless innings, the Dodgers still probably win this game. Even if the bullpen, somebody gives up a run or 2, Dodgers had enough wiggle room. And that's going to be the case most of the time. If the starter can go 6 innings and 4 runs, I would guess that the Dodgers would win, 90% of those games?
Yeah, at least, especially the way the offense has been rolling. So, yeah, for Miller, it was, one of his best starts of his career was against the D-backs not that long ago. he looked like he might be on that way early on, and then hit a little bit of a snag there in, what was it, the fourth inning. He hit a little bit of a snag, gave up some hits and some runs, some well-placed hits, whatever it was. But, all in all, it was still a solid night for him. He still got through the 6th inning, still kept the pitch count, relatively well, despite giving up the 4 runs early on. And, just another mix. I mean, the guy can mix his pitches so well. He threw the changeup a little bit more often than he had in the past. Got 3 swings and misses on it. Mixing the curveball, the slider, mostly 4-seam, of course. Got 4 swings and misses on that. So I mean, he had a good start. It was just one of those, and this is kind of what we've seen from him, where it gets out of hand a little quickly. Most of the time, he's been able to rein it back in and settle down, and not let it linger on past that inning. But he does have a little bit of that, where one inning can get out of hand relatively quickly. But he has the stuff to get back into, and that's what he did today.
Yeah, when I talked to Keith Law before the season started, specifically about Bobby Miller, he only half-jokingly suggested that Miller might want to just pitch from the windup, even with runners on base, because he's so much better from the windup. And so it did seem like there's the old joke that stat nerds use, that a home run is a rally killer. And I think in the case of Gabriel Moreno's 2-run homer, I think it kind of was a rally killer, because it cleared the bases, let Miller go back to the windup, and he was able to settle back in. I remember, or also before the season, Baseball Prospectus, I think it was, in their prospect write-up of Miller, said that his 100-mile-an-hour fastball might only be his 4th best pitch. And that was probably hyperbole, but we definitely saw that, what they were so excited about in his pitch mix tonight. That changeup, it's filthy. And when you can throw 101 miles an hour and then throw that, what was the changeup, about 84?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, with that tailing action, that pronation, and arm side movement. It was, I don't understand how anybody could ever get a hit off that. And if you look, I think Joe Davis said the league is now 4 for 44 off that changeup. So the answer is, you can't really get a hit off that unless he throws a bad one and hangs it. You're not going to hit that pitch, and you're going to have a really hard time laying off it, because you have to be geared up for 101. And if you've got the right, what do they call it, tunneling, coming from the same arm slot, by the time you realize, oh, this isn't a 101-mile-an-hour fastball, this is an 84-mile-an-hour changeup, it's too late and you're out of luck. And then also, he's also got a great curveball and a slider. So it's all that stuff looked really, really good. And you can definitely see why people see him as a potential future ace, because the more experience he gets with actually getting major league hitters out with this stuff and kind of learning how to pitch in the big leagues, he's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, actually, changeup was sitting 88, but still, I mean, it's still a 10, 11 mile degree.
What was the slowest one? I could have sworn I saw an 84, but
tonight his slowest was 85.
Okay, maybe that's what I saw. So, but even 88, that's 11 to 13 miles an hour difference from the fastball. Like that is plenty. I think the rule of thumb is 9 or 10 miles an hour is enough of a difference that you're going to get swings and misses. And so, yeah, I think, Miller only struck out 4 batters, I think, in the 6 innings. So that as that strikeout rate comes, that'll be because he has learned how to pitch in the big leagues a little bit more. And once he starts getting those strikeouts, the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah, and that's really what we're looking forward to. He's doing well right now. I mean, realistically, we probably didn't expect to see his first start until around this time right now, had things gone right, in the injury department for the Dodgers. But we've ended up seeing almost a full season out of him so far, and he's, continued to impress and show things, and, has little hiccups here and there, but overall is giving the Dodgers what they needed, which is, quality enough start.
Yep, that's all they need right now. And, maybe by the time October rolls around, he will be ready to do even better, but we'll take the quality enough for right now. The lineup has been carried by Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman lately, but on Monday night, it was not those two who carried it, although Freeman did get the scoring started. It was the 3 through 7 hitters who carried the lineup. We're going to talk about that when we come back. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Do you think Mookie Betts is going to break out of his 1-game slump and hit a home run against Merrill Kelly tonight? I think so. And on Sleeper, you can swing for the fences with up to 100 times payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less in their stat categories, like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. You get your picks right, and you could win big. And there's more stat categories to place your bets on these days: home runs, triples, stolen bases, and dynamic payouts are live. What are dynamic payouts? In short, each player projection now has a multiplier attached to it, as opposed to preset multipliers based on the number of legs in a contest. With dynamic payouts also come more stat categories to place contests on. You can get higher payouts than the other apps with fewer picks. So use promo code Locked On and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. We are back. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially want to thank our everydayers, those of you who are watching and listening every weekday morning. We love you and appreciate you. If you're not an everydayer, if you want to be loved and appreciated by us, well, just watch or listen every weekday morning, and or watch and listen. You'll be double loved and double appreciated. We'll both love and appreciate you if you watch and listen. So thank you, everydayers. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comments section. If you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you through social media or email. I'll give you all that contact info at the end, like I always do. And also want to remind you, if you ever can't catch the game on TV or in person, you can always listen on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just launch the app and search for Dodgers. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. I actually listened to the first few innings of tonight's game on SiriusXM because I was at my son's games. We got in the car right as the Dodger game was starting, and we had a half-hour drive home. So listen to the first couple innings on SiriusXM. Got to hear Charlie Steiner and Rick Monday. It was always fun, but then I was happy to hear Joe and Nomar when I got into my house. And yeah, always awesome to have a lot of different options for how to catch our Dodgers. Or even if you're blacked out sometimes, you know, you can catch it on SiriusXM. Technically, I'm blacked out of DBacks, but guess what? I find ways around it. But the Dodgers weren't blacked out on offense. Kike Hernandez is the only player in the lineup who didn't get on base in this game. But Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman were a combined 1 for 9, just 2 times on base, a walk for Mookie and a home run for Freddie Freeman. Freeman's home run did start the scoring off of Zach Gallen, the second batter of the game. But overall, that was really it for the production from the top 2 in the lineup. And they've really been carrying the team. We mentioned on yesterday's episode that they combined for 29 hits in the 6-game road trip. And so, I mean, they were bound to hit a slump. Hopefully it's a 1-game slump and then they'll get right back on that horse. But the good news is the rest of the lineup really picked them up. The 2 through 7 hitters, you had Will Smith, who was 2 for 5, Muncy 2 for 3 with a walk, Peralta 1 for 4 with the big hit, Hayward 2 for 3 with the homer, Muncy also had a homer, Outman 2 for 3 with the homer. It was just those 5 batters combined for 11 hits, which is almost Mookie and Freddie like the way they've been hitting lately. And Hayward's homer was the big one. The Dodgers were down 4-3. Gallen was on the verge of throwing a quality start himself. He was in the 6th inning, had allowed 3 runs. He had really settled in after that first inning when the Dodgers scored 3 runs. And then Peralta led off the inning with a base hit. Jason Hayward then blasted a 2-run homer. James Outman followed up with a homer of his own. And that really turned the game around. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Julio the other day, who seemed to be pitching well, seemed to be cruising, and then a bad pitch or two, and boom, suddenly he's the losing pitcher. And kind of the same thing happened for Gallen, although the Dodgers had they had threatened in the previous inning, in the 5th inning, made him throw more pitches. So his pitch count was already getting up there. And so they'd shown signs of life and signs that they were going to get to him. But I mean, Peralta's leadoff single, the Dodgers, I think that was the 3rd straight inning the Dodgers had the leadoff runner on. And the first 2 times it didn't amount to anything. And so that very easily could have not amounted to anything, but Hayward and Outman came through with the home runs. And it was just really good to see the offense put up a big night without much from Mookie or Freddie.
Yeah, 11 hits and only 1 from Mookie and Freddie. And, probably because Mookie and Freddie have been so good and the Dodgers have been so good this month in terms of winning, we haven't really looked at what's kind of been an issue on the offense for a little bit. And it's not like a huge issue. It's just guys that have scuffled or struggled a little bit. David Peralta being one of those guys. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, he has an OPS under 500. He hasn't homered in the last 30 games. Even in the last 30 games, his not getting on base as often. Slugging percentage is down. Overall on the season now, he's under 700 OPS. He's at 698. So he's hit a little bit of a wall. I wouldn't want to say a wall. I don't know what it is exactly that's struggling, but Hayward has had less of an impact, like in terms of a home run like today or something like that, but he's still been able to impact. He's still been relatively good over the last couple weeks, last month or so, although this was his first home run in the last couple weeks, so we hadn't seen that in a while. Outman has had moments, but he's also had some swing and miss. Will Smith is was on infield single tear for a little bit, but hasn't really done much beyond that, other than obviously everyone's gonna have occasional good games, but they all put it together today. Max Muncy's been hot. He's has had extra base hit in a few games now, working on getting that average up along with his home runs. He's going to hit 35 plus home runs for another season the way he's going right now. So yeah, it was good to see. And even Kike going over. Kike had been one of the Dodgers' hot bats, even though against right-handers he's been good since he came to the Dodgers, but in general against right-handers hasn't been that great, especially against good right-handers like Zach Gallen is. So him having the offer isn't as surprising. But it's one of those things where, especially when it gets to October, they need, Mookie, Freddie to be Mookie and Freddie. They need Will Smith and Muncy to be, who they've been. And then hopefully Jaden Martinez comes back. Dave Roberts said he should be back when they head out on the road trip next week. And then they just need the rest of the guys to have contribution. So a big home run from Jason Hayward, the big hit that Peralta had against the Diamondbacks a couple weeks ago, like things like that, where they just need to contribute where they fit in, let the top of the order, deal with the consistency and let them just kind of fill in behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to send a image right now. I'm going to text it to you, but you don't need to do anything with it, Vince, because I'm just going to, this will get it on my computer so I can upload it here. I was looking at the box score from tonight's game, and Hayward and Outman now have nearly identical lines for the season, for tonight and for the season. 3 at-bats, one run, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, 1 walk, no strikeouts, both batting .253 now. And both Hayward's OPS for the season is .803 and Outman's is .798. Just it's funny. You wouldn't think that they were having the same season, but tonight they had the same night. Here it is. I'm popping it up on YouTube now. That's their lines for tonight, identical lines. And then their season lines are almost identical, even though they've gotten to them in very different ways. But in the end, the production, obviously, Outman has played every day, has a lot more plate appearances because Hayward only does it against righties, basically. But it was fun to see those two guys back to back. I was thinking, like, Outman, what it must be like for him. Like, he's a rookie, and you see his handshake that he had with Mookie in the dugout. Like, I wonder if that's surreal for a rookie to think, I've got a special handshake that me and Mookie Betts do. Like, that's Mookie Betts. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and I'm a rookie, and he likes me enough to do a special handshake with him. And maybe once you get to the big leagues, you're past that starstruckness. But I think I'd be pretty starstruck if Mookie wanted to do a special handshake with me.
Yeah, he's a little older on the prospect side, but still, it's still, even me now that like Mookie recognizes me, I still be like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, it's just cool, like a little cool moment.
Yeah, I assume. I mean, Outman was in college when Mookie won the MVP, probably in 2018, and so
Yeah.
it's probably pretty cool. You need to introduce me to Mookie, okay? So then I can do some to my daughter. And I know he's married, but whatever. All right, that's probably it on the offense, right? I think we covered what we want to talk about there.
Yep.
All right, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the bad news of the day, which is that Tony Gonsolin is done for the year and for next year. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. Hey, we're back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially thanks to our everydayers. Another reminder, you can catch every Dodgers radio broadcast of every game on Sirius XM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. And jumping right in, the news came down before the game on Monday. We knew that Tony Gonsolin was hurt. They put him on the 60-day injured list so they could add Tyson Miller to the roster. Miller had previously been DFA'd and sent to the Mets. I think he pitched in one game for the Mets, and then they DFA'd him, and the Dodgers reclaimed him. And so Tyson Miller is back on the active roster. They sent Gavin Stone down to the minors to make room on the 26-man roster, and they moved Gonsolin to the 60-day IL to make room on the 40-man roster. And then we found out that it's going to be a lot more than 60 days because Tony Gonsolin is having Tommy John surgery, I think this Friday, sometime soon anyway. Dr. Neil Elatrash, the Dodgers Tommy John expert, will be performing it. And that means he's done not just for this year, but for next year. The timing hopefully will allow him to it's actually a little bit around the same time, just a little bit later in the year than Walker Buehler's was last year. I think Walker Buehler was August 13th or something last year.
Yeah, something like that. Early
and
August.
So just a couple weeks later than Buehler's was. I assume the Dodgers aren't even thinking about Gonsolin for next year. I assume that they're just planning on get healthy and be ready for spring training 2025, which is a big bummer for him, a bummer for the Dodgers. When he's healthy, he's been really, really good. It's easy to forget because he hasn't been healthy this year and he hasn't been good this year. But hopefully he can get right. There was some interesting, we knew he was pitching hurt, and Dave Roberts said repeatedly during the season that he wasn't doing any more damage by pitching through the injury. And some people question that with the word now that he needs Tommy John surgery. And Roberts basically reiterated, he said, the fact is he could probably pitch right now, but he wouldn't be effective. And that's why we shut him down, because he wasn't being effective. And so he's not more injured than he was 2 months ago. It's just he's injured enough to need Tommy John surgery, and they've decided to just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially said if they would have shut him down, a couple months ago, he would have had Tommy John, and they let him go. And, he still needs Tommy John, which was interesting in itself. If you look at, maybe they asked Gonsolin, obviously at the time they needed him. Just, they needed essentially a warm body for a while just to get in there and try to give him some decent outings. He never really had it. He had a hot start, and then after that, after like the first couple, maybe 6 weeks of the season, his first 9-10 starts, I think. After that, he just kind of cratered off. I would imagine that's when it started bothering him a little bit more. Couldn't do what he wanted to do. He has the incentives in his contract this year, so I don't know if he wanted to get that money and then say, okay, now I'll get surgery. Whatever it was, there was reasoning behind it that we may never know. We don't, at this point, no need to know. But it is, a blow for the Dodgers. Maybe not so much this year because they hadn't had a good Gonsolin this year, so we didn't really know what that looked like. But for next year, for sure, just with the uncertainty, Clayton Kershaw will be a free agent. You would imagine he's just going to keep coming back to the Dodgers till he decides to retire. But again, you never know. The Rangers did improve themselves, and maybe that does entice him. Julio, has had a weird year. Maybe he sticks around with the Dodgers. Maybe he takes a qualifying offer. Maybe he doesn't and he leaves. Walker Buehler, you don't know for sure how he's going to recover from a second Tommy John. You don't know if he'll be that ace guy again or just a guy that can, get some outs and be more of a 2, 3, 4 type guy. You would imagine with Buehler's, pedigree, he could get back to a 1-2, but I can't say that for sure. And then you got the young guys, that have pitched this year: Miller, Pepe, Sheehan, Gavin Stone, those guys there. So it makes an intrigue of you lost somebody for next year, and it raises the question on Lance Lynn now. Like, they have an $18 million option on him. Do they take that just for the innings to have and the uncertainty of what the offseason has, especially with Shohei Ohtani? If you do sign him, he's probably not going to pitch next year. So, behind him is Julio as an expect starter. And then after that, you're not really looking at anybody that's a significant game changer. So there's a lot more questions now, but at least we know with Gonsolin finally what it is.
Yeah, you mentioned the incentives in his contract. Somebody on YouTube, when we talked about Gonsolin last week, and I kind of gave him props for toughing it out and giving the Dodgers the starts when they needed them, so pointed out, that it wasn't a totally selfless move on his part because he did have those incentives. and he did make $2 million extra for the last 7 starts he made, because he had incentives at 14, 16, 18, and 20 starts. Each of those milestones, he got another $500,000. So he hit each of those 4 milestones. So a total of $2 million in incentives on top of the $3.25 million in his base salary. So basically added 60% to his salary. And the next incentive was at 24 starts. So he had to make 4 more starts to get the next 500,000. So even if it was just about the money, that was a logical stopping point. But also I think that his performance just kind of became untenable. Giving up 10 runs in 3 1/3 innings is a pretty clear sign that you're probably done for the year. Especially if everybody knows, okay, you probably need Tommy John surgery. You're toughing it out. Okay, 10 runs. Yep. Not worth it to either side anymore. So there's your $2 million. Go rehab. I hope he comes back strong, because he, like I said, he has been really, really good when he's been healthy. And it's his overall career numbers, like his career ERA coming into this season was 2.51. It's now sitting at 3.19 because of this season. But the guy who had a 2.51 ERA in his first 51 starts, 272 innings, that's pretty darn good. And I'd love to see that version of Tony back after the Tommy John surgery. And they'll have him for at least 2 more years. He's not a free agent until after the 2026 season. And so they've got, even when he comes back from Tommy John, 2 more years of team control.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it sits at now. It's, it kind of sucks that not, now you're kind of looking at 2025 a little bit like, oh, they'd get Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin back in theory, full strength. So, that next year is a little bit of a different question. There's a lot of the questions that come with it, like I said. But yeah, it sucks for him in the general. I'm sure at a certain point it was one of those where, well, if I get to Tommy John, I'm already going to miss all the next year anyways, more than likely. So why not, push it as far as I can until I can't anymore. It seems like after a certain point, that's kind of what it became, which, I'm sure they made that decision together. I don't think it was the Dodgers saying, hey, Tony, you need to go pitch right now. And I'm sure it was, Tony saying, hey, you know what, I can still throw. I know, like I said, I know that I need Tommy John, but if I get the surgery in July, or if I get it in August, like realistically, I'm going to come back and pitch 1 month maybe next year, and realistically not be, available for real help other than just my personal growth.
Yeah, and they may have even discussed the incentives. Tony's saying, hey, look, I'd love to if you guys need me to pitch, I'll happily earn that other $2 million. I won't be very good, but he's going to be 31 years old when he does come back. He started late in his career. And then, so he's going to be 31 by the time he hits free agency, he's going to be 33. And so he's maybe never going to have a huge payday. And so that extra $2 million bumps his current contract up to about $8 million. And $8 million is the point, where, realistically speaking, we'd all love to have $8 million put in our bank account right now. But when we're talking about professional athletes and their short careers, $8 million is right around that point where, after taxes and everything and living expenses, you can probably have $3 million in the bank, and $3 million in the bank is almost enough to just live the rest of your days and not worry about money anymore. Get another a good couple years after that. And he's the kind of player who actually has to think about that. Mookie Betts never has to think about money again. Clayton Kershaw never has to think about money again. Tony Gonsolin does. And so $2 million is very, very meaningful to him. And so I'm happy that he got it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's it, right?
That's it for me.
That's going to do it for us. Dodgers play the DBacks again today, second of 3 in this series. They got a chance to win yet another series tonight. It's Merrill Kelly for the DBacks. Is it Kershaw for the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Hopefully Merrill Kelly, the Dodgers have hit him pretty well most of the time. He did pretty well against them his last time out, but Dodgers have had some success against him in the past. So hopefully they can ride this hot streak and knock him around like the Merrill Kelly he is. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, you can catch the Dodgers radio broadcast on Sirius XM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Our DMs are open, so DM us anytime. You can also email us at lockedondodgers@gmail.com or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.